I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So it's Tuesday, and that means it's time for me to do another run on the Spotlight Caches. So for this particular week on the Spotlight Caches, we've got Silver Samurai, Kitty Pryde, and Spider-Man 2099. Now I'm going to go over the card and talk about the card and his history and some of the places that he could be used. But if you own Kitty Pryde, I would basically skip this week. Even if you don't own Kitty Pryde, I might skip this week because Kitty Pryde is not seen as much play as she used to ever since her nerf happened. Spider-Man 2099 basically sees no play. And I'll just spoil it for you right now. I think Silver Samurai is a 1-star card. And I don't put out 1 stars lightly, so we're going to talk about why I think it's a 1-star card. Before we talk about it, I just want to go over the history in case you don't know who Silver Samurai is. Silver Samurai was the son of a Japanese crime lord. He was basically born a mutant, and as a youth, he mastered the discipline of the medieval samurais, and he sought employment as a warrior for hire. He eventually found work working for the Viper as an agent of the terrorist organization known as Hydra. The Silver Samurai has the ability to make Tachyon Fields that he typically focuses through his sword, which he basically has mastered. So basically he can take Tachyon Fields, he can generate them through his sword to basically cut through anything. And he spent many years learning how to wield that sword. So now let's talk about why I think he's a 1-star card. Because I don't like to give out 1 stars, I really don't. So the problem with him is, it's like there's really not a good place for him to fit. If you look at some of the cards to compare him to, here's one of the cards that you would compare him to, which is Cowling Wing. Now if you take him side by side with Cowling Wing, he looks really weak on that particular case. So we're just going to talk about what he does here for just a second. So let's go and see what he does here. So what he is if you look at the card here, Silver Samurai is a 4 energy, 5 power. On reveal, each player discards the lowest card from their hand. And now you'd think that's a decently good card, but it has a hard time figuring out where it wants to be and what it wants to do. Because again, we're going to compare him to some of the other cards that exist that would fall into the same general category. But when we're talking about Silver Samurai, the cards that we got to look at here. First one has to be Cowling Wing. This Cowling Wing is basically doing almost the same thing that he is doing, except you're not discarding a card from your opponent. So you gotta look at them side by side and basically see how they look compared to each other. And you see kind of where the problem springs here. Because right now he's a 4/5 and basically doing the same thing that you do with Cowling Wing, but for half the energy, and you're only losing 1 power. Now, you're not making your opponent discard anything, but if you were to go to the next card, and this is where Silver Samurai kind of has a problem with it. The next card that you would basically compare with if you were to go 1 energy would be the Moon Knight. And if you look at Moon Knight right here, Moon Knight's 3/3 that on reveal discards a card from each player's hand. So the thing about Moon Knight is random. Where Silver Samurai, it's basically guaranteed to always throw out the lowest card in your hand. So you're looking for certain things, like you're looking for your X23s, and you're looking for your shards that you get off of Dakin. But if you don't have those cards, if you don't have the card from last week, and you don't have the season pass this month, it's really hard to get this on. And the problem is even if you own the season pass card this month, the Dakin also falls on 4. So it's a hard idea to get Silver Samurai down when you want to get your other card down, which is also 4. So basically your whole idea is that you'd play your Dakin on 4 and then play Silver Samurai on 5, hoping to discard the Blade, or maybe play it really late in the game, like kind of like a weird, just like solo Modok. Because if we look at this card as compared to the Modok, now let's get Modok up here for a second. Modok is basically doing a lot more for 1 more energy. Yeah, you're destroying your whole hand, but sometimes you don't care. You're losing 1 energy, you're losing 3 power for that though. But you're just getting rid of the shard itself. But that's like one of the few situations that I could see about it. There's this whole idea of like, you could play Cowling on 2, and then play Moon Knight on 3, and then play Silver on 4, and then play the Black Bolt on 5, and then maybe do Modok on 6. But then, like, what are you really doing there? And that's the problem with Silver Samurai. If you move him down 1 power point, he's fighting with Moon Knight. Why would you ever use Moon Knight if you move him down of energy? If you move him up in energy, he's basically fighting with Black Bolt. But even when you look at Black Bolt, it's 1 more energy for 2 more power. It just seems like he doesn't have the right spot to be on. The only card that he really kind of synergizes with is Stature right now. I mean, the whole idea, I've had this kind of interesting idea where you would play stuff like X23 and even like Wolverine. So you'd play X23 and Wolverine and maybe even the Draken. And then the whole idea would be that if you just leave like Wolverine and you leave X23 and you'd leave the shard in your hand, and that way when you're playing like Silver Samurai, you're just discarding the card and getting some more power on your field. So it's like, it's not even a 4-5. Because if you got Wolverine as your lowest card, it's not only a 4-5, it's 4-5 plus a 2-4 on top of that. But that's a long way to go, and then the only card that kind of works with that is Wolverine and X23, because they're the only ones that really help you out with this card. The only other card that comes close to that is if you want to play with the Swarm. And then there's kind of a variant where you would like Nakia the Swarm to get the Swarm up to high, and then kill the Swarm and then get a whole bunch of Swarms. And then you'd be playing with stuff like Howling Wing and Silver Samurai. And maybe even X23, and at that particular point you might even be able to throw in Double Dinosaur and have this kind of weird like boost from behind victory. But that's just kind of a weird kind of way of making that work. That's the thing about this. There's no deck that really screams out at me that this works in. And all the decks that I'm thinking about making with it are 12-step decks where it's like, yeah, if you get A and then B and then C and then D, it works. But there's a lot easier combo decks that you can run that are a lot cheaper and a lot easier to get a hold of. So please don't do what I'm about to do. I am going to roll on this week because I roll on every single week. But my personal suggestion is if you own the Kitty Pryde, which I happen to own, that you basically leave this week alone and skip this week. And even if you don't own the Kitty Pryde, the problem with Kitty Pryde is she's starting to fall off. And if you care about Kitty Pryde that much, you might want to wait and see if she comes back in another roulette down the line. And that way you can get her with a better partners, because this is not the week to roll on, in my opinion. I'm going to roll on it because it's what I do for content, but please don't do what I do. Let me just get up into a Spotlight Cache here. Spotlight Cache, and I gotta scroll through a whole lot of these. Spotlight Cache, okay. We got a Kitty Pryde variant. Alright. I got Kitty Pryde, I hope you got Kitty Pryde too. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.